There is an empire unlike any in history. It has no emperor, no borders, and no standing army on foreign soil. Yet it commands more power than any nation ever has. Its territory is the global financial system. Its soldiers are dollars. And its most powerful weapon is one we use every single day, without ever questioning where its power truly comes from. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is the story of the US dollar, and how America built a hidden empire of economic dominance that controls the fate of nations from the shadows. In the next 25 minutes, we will pull back the curtain on the most sophisticated system of power the world has ever seen. We will reveal the secret deal that launched the dollar to global dominance. A deal struck not in a war room, but on a luxury ship. We will expose the hidden mechanism that forces every nation, even America's enemies, to fund its way of life. And we will show you the one critical vulnerability in this entire system that China, Russia, and others are now desperately trying to exploit to break free. This is the story of how a simple piece of paper became the most powerful weapon on Earth. To understand the dollar's power today, we must travel back to the smoldering ashes of World War II. While Europe and Asia lay in ruins, the United States emerged, not just victorious, but economically transcendent. Its factories were untouched. Its gold reserves held the majority of the world's entire supply. It was in this unique moment of absolute leverage that a secret conference was held in the remote hotel of Bretton Woods, New Hampshire. Here, America made the world an offer it couldn't refuse. The deal was this: every major world currency would be pegged to the US dollar, and the US dollar, in turn, would be pegged to gold at a fixed rate of $35 an ounce. A dollar became, in effect, as good as gold. Overnight, the dollar was no longer just an American currency. It became the world's reserve currency, the lifeblood of global trade, the bedrock upon which the modern world would be rebuilt. America had laid the first, and most crucial, stone of its hidden empire. But this system had a fatal flaw. It was built on a promise America couldn't keep forever. As America spent lavishly on the Vietnam War and its Great Society programs, it began printing more dollars than it could back with its gold reserves. Foreign nations, led by France, grew nervous. They started showing up at America's gold window, demanding gold for their dollars. The system was cracking. So, in 1971, President Richard Nixon made the most consequential financial decision of the 20th century. He closed the gold window. He unilaterally severed the dollar's link to gold. The world was in shock. The dollar, now backed by nothing but the full faith and credit of the United States government, was suddenly naked. Experts predicted a collapse. They predicted the end of American financial dominance. But they were wrong, because something far more powerful than gold was waiting in the wings to back the dollar. So, if the dollar was no longer backed by gold, what gave it value? The answer lies not in Fort Knox, but in the deserts of Saudi Arabia. In the wake of the 1973 oil crisis, the United States and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia struck a secret, historic pact. The deal was simple and brutal in its effectiveness. The U.S. would provide the Saudi Kingdom with military protection and advanced weapons. In return, Saudi Arabia, the world's largest oil exporter, would agree to sell its oil exclusively in U.S. dollars. This was the genesis of the petrodollar, and it was a masterstroke of economic strategy. Soon, every member of OPEC followed suit. If any country in the world wanted to buy the lifeblood of its economy, it first had to acquire US dollars. This created a perpetual, insatiable global demand for dollars. It didn't matter if you loved America or hated it. If you needed energy, you needed dollars. The empire now had its ultimate weapon. The dollar was no longer a currency. It was a license to participate in the global economy. This system bestowed upon America what a French minister once bitterly called the exorbitant privilege, and it is the greatest financial advantage one nation has ever held. Because the entire world needs dollars, the United States can essentially live on credit. It can print money to pay its bills, to fund its deficits, and to buy the goods of other nations, in a way that no other country on earth can. Think of it as the world's most exclusive credit card. When Thailand or Brazil runs a deficit, they face a currency crisis. When the United States runs a deficit, the world simply absorbs more dollars. This allows America to maintain a military larger than the next 10 countries combined. It allows for massive government spending without immediate consequence. It is the ultimate something-for-nothing scheme, a gravitational anomaly in economics that forces the entire planet to subsidize the American way of life. The empire doesn't just collect taxes from its citizens, it collects a silent tax from every nation on earth that trades in oil. So, we have the foundation, a system born from the ashes of war, unshackled from gold by Nixon's gamble, and supercharged by a secret deal for Saudi oil. This created the exorbitant privilege, a financial force field that allows America to defy economic gravity. But no empire lasts forever, and no weapon remains unchallenged. In Part 2, we will expose the dark side of this power, the terrifying tool America uses to crush its adversaries without firing a single shot. We will reveal the growing alliance of nations actively plotting to dethrone the dollar. And we will answer the ultimate question: is the dollar's reign of power eternal? Or are we witnessing the first fatal cracks in the foundation of the American empire? We've seen how the dollar empire was built on a brilliant, unshakable foundation of global necessity. But what happens when a nation steps out of line? When it challenges American interests? The empire doesn't send in the Marines. It doesn't launch a cyber attack. It deploys a far more devastating, invisible weapon that can cripple a country overnight. A weapon so powerful, it's been called the monetary neutron bomb. This weapon is financial sanctions, and its delivery system is a little-known Belgian cooperative called SWIFT, the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication. SWIFT is the global messaging network that facilitates every single major cross-border money transfer in the world. It is the central nervous system of global finance, and because the dollar is the world's reserve currency, America holds a de facto veto power over this system. When the US government decides to sanction a country like Iran, Russia, or Venezuela, it can effectively cut that nation off from the SWIFT system. The result is instant economic paralysis. That country can no longer get paid for its exports. It can no longer pay for its imports. Its banks become isolated islands. Its currency becomes worthless on the global stage, and its economy begins to suffocate. This is a power beyond any traditional military threat. It is the ability to erase a nation from the global economy with the stroke of a pen. America has demonstrated this power repeatedly, proving that the dollar's network is its ultimate enforcement tool. But with every demonstration, a dangerous backlash grows. You cannot wield a weapon of such devastating power without creating a legion of enemies determined to find a shield. And that is precisely what is happening. Led by China and Russia, a growing coalition of nations is in open rebellion against the dollar's dominance. This group, known as BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, is actively building an alternative financial ecosystem. They are creating their own development banks to rival the IMF and World Bank. They are signing bilateral trade agreements that bypass the dollar entirely. For example, China now buys oil from Russia and Saudi Arabia in Chinese yuan. India buys Russian oil in Indian rupees. This is no longer a theoretical threat. It is a practical, operational effort to de-dollarize global trade. Every time a billion-dollar oil tanker is paid for in a currency other than dollars, it is a direct attack on the foundation of the American empire. The weapon of dollar dependency is losing its edge as its targets slowly, methodically, wean themselves off it. But the external rebellion is only half the story. The greatest threat to the dollar empire may not come from outside, but from within. It is the United States' own, staggering, and ever-growing national debt. The exorbitant privilege, it turns out, can be a curse. Because America can borrow so easily, it has done so with reckless abandon. The U.S. national debt now exceeds $33 trillion and is climbing at an alarming rate. This creates a fundamental vulnerability. The entire system relies on the world's continued unwavering faith in the U.S. government's ability to manage its finances. If that faith ever wavers, if major foreign creditors like China or Japan ever decide to slow their purchases of U.S. debt, the consequences would be catastrophic. Interest rates would skyrocket. The dollar would plummet, and the American economy would face a crisis that would make the Great Depression look mild. The empire would be bankrupted by its own privilege. The weapon would explode in its hand. The battle for the future of money is now moving to a new, digital frontier. And here, America faces its most agile and determined competitor, China. China is years ahead in developing and deploying a central bank digital currency, the digital yuan. This is not just a digital version of cash. It is a programmable currency that offers the Chinese government unprecedented control and surveillance over its economy. But its real geopolitical power is external. The digital yuan is being designed to facilitate cross-border trade outside of the SWIFT system. It is a direct technological end run around American financial sanctions. Meanwhile, the United States has been slow to react, caught in a debate over the implications of a digital dollar for privacy and freedom. We are witnessing a new arms race, a digital currency race. The winner of this race will set the standards for the next generation of global finance. Will it be a system built on American principles of relative openness or on Chinese principles of state control and surveillance? So, where does this leave the dollar empire? It is simultaneously powerful and vulnerable. It is being attacked from the outside by a coalition of rivals and eroded from the inside by fiscal irresponsibility. The question is not if the dollar will be dethroned as the sole supercurrency, but what comes next. The most likely future is not the triumph of the yuan or the euro, but a fragmented multi-currency world. A world where the dollar shares power with the euro, the yuan, and perhaps a digital basket of currencies. It would be a world with less centralized American power, but also potentially less financial stability. The end of the dollar's unchallenged reign would mean the end of America's ability to single-handedly police the global economy. it would be a more chaotic, multipolar financial world. Throughout history, every reserve currency has had its day. The Spanish real, the Dutch guilder, the British pound, they all dominated, and they all eventually faded. Their reigns lasted roughly 100 years. The US dollar has been the world's primary reserve currency for about 80 years. The cracks we see today are not necessarily a sign of immediate collapse, but they are a sign of aging. They are the symptoms of the natural cycle of empires. The hidden empire of the dollar was built on a combination of historical luck, strategic genius, and raw power. Its future will be determined by whether America can exercise the discipline to manage its debt, the wisdom to wield its financial weapons sparingly, and the innovation to win the digital currency race. The dollar is more than money. It is a reflection of American power itself, and its fate is inextricably tied to the choices America makes today. The world is watching and plotting, waiting to see if the empire will reinvent itself, or if it will become just another chapter in the history books.